Hello, this video is going to go over the last major assignment for this course, which is a presentation from your novel. So this assignment is going to have you use your notes that you took throughout this unit to create a presentation. So specifically the notes from part 3 and 4, you might have to go back to part 1 and 2 to find quotes and characteristics that work for what you're doing. So it's worth 47 marks, which seems like a lot. But really it's just an opportunity to do better in each section, and it's part of your major assignments grade. So either using Google Slides, PowerPoint, or any other software, you're going to create a presentation that uses the novel to answer one of the 2 questions below. You can design your own presentation, or if this is something new to you, there's a template here, which I'll go over in a second, for those of you who maybe have never used something like this before. When you're ready to submit, please submit your presentation, whether it's a PowerPoint or Google Slides, save it as a PDF and submit as a PDF. So you have 2 options here. So you're going to answer either the question choice 1 or choice 2. The first one is talking about discussing the ideas developed by the text creator about the impact of obstacles when one is pursuing a goal, or about the effect of fear on a person's decision making. Okay? Your presentation needs to include a title page, a thesis statement that answers one of the 2 questions above. You need to identify 4 character traits of Santiago, and one of those needs to be from each section of the novel, and it needs to align with the thesis statement. Okay, and we'll show you what that looks like in a second. You need to analyze each of the quotes and connect to a trait that you say above, as well as the thesis. What you're also going to be doing is including an image to visually represent either the trait or the quote with citations, and you're going to explain why you chose that image. Okay? When you start looking for images, these are 2 really great websites. So I can open this one up here. So this is Pexels. If I go in here and I'm looking for a dog, I just type it in there, scroll down, and there's lots of different options there. And the same with the Unsplash. Okay, because these are Creative Commons, you don't need to require an attribution, but we should start learning things like that. So we're going to be using a citation that's fairly simple that looks like this. All right, so if we have a look at this template, so if I was to click here, it's going to open up this template here. Okay, and so what you're going to do is have a title page. The title page can be whatever you want. Maybe it's one of the keywords from your thesis that you're going to create. Maybe it's something to do with the novel. You get to decide, just like when you create a title for any of your other written work, you get to be creative and create an original title here. Make sure you include your name. Then you're going to answer your thesis statement. So what is your thesis statement? Which of those 2 choices are you answering? Then you're going to provide a characteristic. So characteristic number 1. So what is the first characteristic you're going to use about Santiago that, remember, has to relate back to your thesis statement? Then you're going to give the context of the quote, what's sort of happening in the novel at this time. And then you're going to pick an image that fits either the characteristic or your quote and explain why you chose that image to represent it. Okay? Then you're going to analyze that quote. You're going to analyze that quote and connect it to both the characteristic and the thesis. Okay? And you'll continue to do that throughout. Again, if you're doing your own presentation, it does not need to look like this. You just want to make sure that you have at least 4 images, okay? As well as have all of the elements that are here, but it does not need to look this way. So I'm going to go ahead and show you an example of one that I've done here. So this one I've titled Commitment. And what you can see is I actually have found an image on Unsplash, and I've inserted it as a background. So I'll show you how to do that. So first thing I did is I looked up for diaries, because I'm going to be talking about freedom writers here, not the novel. And I decided I liked this picture here. So when I click on it, it's going to give me the name of the person, and that's all I need to cite this. Okay. And I'm going to right click on the image. So I'm going to right click. And because I'm using it as a background, I'm not just going to copy the image. I'm actually going to copy the image address. Okay. When I get back to my presentation, I'm going to go to background, and instead of just choosing a color for my background, I'm going to say I want an image for the background. And I'm going to do it by using a URL, which I just copied. So I'm going to paste it now. And then I would insert that image and it would go in the background. Okay. Some other things to point out on here. All the stuff that you need to do to work on your slides are up in this toolbar. So background, if you wanted to just make it a color, I could do that. Decide I want to be that color. I would say done. That's what it would look like. If you want to change the layout of the slides, you want them to be set up slightly differently, you can do that here. If you decided you want to have a theme that goes throughout your entire, maybe I want to do this, then you can do that as well. That's up to you. Okay. You don't need to worry about transitions because we are saving this as a PDF. The actual, I can change all the font and all that here. So this is the font size, font color. If I want to change what font I'm using. So a lot of your tools are up here. If you need an additional text box, you could look in your insert button here, insert a text box, type text here. It's hard to see because it's on dark, so I'll move that up. So you can play around with this a little bit as you're kind of going along. But just know, for this template, it's pretty straightforward, easy to use. So again, this is my title page. I've named it Commitment. This is my image. So I said Marcus Paulo Prado on unsplash.com. So that I'm just saying this is where I got this image from. Then my thesis statement. So I had a different question here. The question was, discuss the ideas developed by the text creator about the impact of commitment on others. And so my thesis statement was, commitment in times of hardships builds relationships by creating trust. And I already see a yes. So commitment in times of hardship builds relationships up by creating trust. So I'm saying, you know, if we continue to say commitment, even in those hard times, that relationships are going to grow, and that's going to happen because we've created trust by not leaving. Okay, so I'm talking again about freedom writers here. You all be doing your thesis, or sorry, the novel for this. So the first quote that I picked for Erin, I'm going to be talking about Erin in this presentation, is that she's intuitive. Okay, the quote that I'm using to show that is, it says, "Do you understand me? I can see you, and you are not failing." And I'm going to give the context of the quote. So Erin says this to Andre after he has decided to go back to dealing drugs and stopped handing in his work. He has gone back to this as a result of the system letting him down by sentencing his innocent brother to 15 years in jail. So that's kind of what's happening. That's why this quote is happening. And then I picked this image on the right-hand side. And I said this image reflects how Andre is feeling at this moment in his life. The shadow is what Erin can see in Andre. She knows he is capable of more. She sees him. Again, I have my image source here. So up here, this is the image I used. That's the name of the person who created it. Okay, Yi Jing Han. All right, so I always want to make sure that I cite that there. Then you want to do the analysis. And you'll notice I've actually bolded, and you don't have to do this, but I've bolded the keywords from my thesis as well as from my characteristic in here to show that I'm linking it all together just like you've been asked to do. So Erin at this point is committed to her class and all of the people in it. She's worked very hard to get them to trust her. As a result of the communities that her students live in, she realizes that there are daily hardships that are going to come up in her students' lives. Her intuition tells her that Andre just needs someone on his side to believe in him, to pull him back into the things that are going to help him move forward in his life rather than backward. She is letting him know that she is committed to him and his success and will not let him fail. The trust that they had previously built allows Andre to reset and get back to succeeding. So I'm linking this all to my thesis. I'm bringing in the quote. I'm bringing in the characteristics. So in your analysis, this is what you're expected to do that. And so for the novel, you need to do this for part 1, 2, 3, and 4, a quote from each part that supports what you're saying as an answer to the thesis, or to the thesis question and your thesis statement, and including some characteristics of Santiago that all link that together, that allow all of that to happen. Okay. So this is all of it here. If we have a look down below, we have a rubric. And so the reason why it's out of 47 marks is we're going to be marking each quote and characteristic separately from one another. So that's great. So your thesis statement, you're going to get some marks for that. Make sure you have a look at the do's or don'ts. There's a link up at the top of the assignment that you can have a look at that'll take you back to that to make sure you're on the right track. Characteristic and quote, you can see for 1, 2, 3, and 4, these are all the things that we're looking for. You're going to be graded on the images you select, on whether it's a literal representation or you're going a little bit deeper and being insightful about how that image is reflecting the quote and or the characteristic. A grade for your overall presentation, including things like font, color, size, does it look nice, that kind of thing. And then choice and correctness. So make sure all your grammar and spelling and all of that looks good. If you have any questions about this assignment, please reach out to your instructor. But other than that, good luck.